Welcome back to Secret Weapons, and today we're taking a look at the new cartridge-based multi-effect unit, Arcades by COOPERFX. Rather than say that this is the demo and review of the arcades, I should almost say that this is installment one in what could be a limitless number of features and showcases that I do on this pedal. Much like its namesake, this is a hub for any number of programs that can be set into this thing. You can see right here we have this little cartridge slot, Arcades. You get it, you get it. And that slot is where you place a card that can hold any number of spin FV1 chip based effects that basically anyone can program as far as I know. I mean, as long as you know how to, you get it. At the point at which I'm making this video and at the time of release, there are 4 current cards available for the arcades. You can hear them jingle. You have the LoFi, the delay, the pitch, and the reverb cards. And I can tell you right off the bat, I am obsessed. They sound so good. In that intro piece, you heard all of the low synth bassy, really kind of like crazy, angry sounding stuff. That's the glitch mode, a synth voice on the LoFi card. And likewise, the kind of like higher, lighter synthy sound is the synth engine, also on the LoFi card. The main guitar parts are a mix of a pitch-shifted arpeggiating reverb and a VHS style reverb, which is basically COOPERFX's Gen Loss style VHS modulation applied to the trails of a reverb. You've got some more conventional stuff in there too, don't worry. There's digital delay, tape delay, analog delay. They all sound really good. The multi-head delay is cool and skittery in all the right ways. There's, of course, granular, glitchy, sample and hold kind of stuff on all the cards because this is COOPERFX and we don't do non-glitchy granular stuff here at COOPERFX's product line. But I gotta say, like right off the bat, I think everyone expects me to kind of go after the delays and the reverbs on these things, but holy crap, those synth sounds, right? Right? It's crazy. We're gonna drop one of the synth stings in right here. Yeah, that's dope. This thing is also incredibly robust for its size. Not only do you have this cartridge slot, which allows you to kind of have anybody create sounds for this thing, but you've also got MIDI in and an expression in jack separately from each other, which means you can throw a tap tempo in there, you can throw your expression pedal in there, and then you can also do patch changes and all sorts of craziness with your MIDI control. I don't know how much there is left to say about this thing. It seems pretty straightforward, but it's not. It can do anything, and that's what's really cool about this thing. The page button allows you to toggle between multiple pages of parameters to adjust, including a clock control, which can be really useful for controlling both the fidelity and the speed at which certain effects kind of take hold, whether that's attack and release on the synth sounds or your maximum and minimum delay times. That clock control is amazing, and it's on that second page, so don't forget to go over there where you can mess with your wet dries and that freaking clock sound, which is so good. Being able to quickly navigate between programs with the program button, as well as being able to assign entirely different sets of parameters to 2 different sounds on the same patch using the aux and tap button right here. Super genius. Really, really cool. We'll play with that a little bit here in a second when we go to that top-down camera. So that's a quick overview of everything, but what I want to say before we go to that top-down camera and dive into these different cards and their different sounds and everything is this thing is really cool. It is not just multi-effects so we can throw some delays in there, throw some reverbs in there. The sounds are really good. The arpeggiated pitch reverb, if you take that pitch out of it, it's just such a cool reverb. The texture is great. It's got this great 80s rack artificial reverb sound that just sounds so cool. I think I'm going to be using it a lot in the future. And also, once again, that crush sound. Get out of here. It's so good. I dig the arcades. It's as fun as I remember arcades as a kid. Nostalgia has nothing to do with this. This is great. This is really, really cool. So if you haven't checked it out, I recommend checking it out. Let's jump into some sounds. And once again, a sudden venue change in one of my reviews. So let's go to the new board in a new space. We'll run through what that signal chain is. And let's just dive in and see what is available to us through the different cards on the COOPERFX arcades. Here's our board. We are running the Diamond compressor into the COOPERFX arcades, the Benson preamp, the tonal recall, the Chase Plus Audio blooper, the Walrus D1, the specular tempest, and the Strymon iridium for our amp sounds. We'll kind of bring various things in and out over the course of this, but I think it's safe to say that if you're hearing any delay and reverb that isn't being featured on the card that we're currently using, you can assume that it is either the D1 or the specular tempest. I think we're going to try to stay away from this stuff up here for the purposes of this review, so stay tuned. Okay, so rather than going through and deep diving into every single feature on every single card, I think there's a lot of content out there across the board for these. Let's go ahead and just dive into some crucial sounds that I find to be incredibly high value. So like I said before we jump in, we've got our diamond compressor, our 1981 DRV, Cooper Arcades, Benson preamp, tonal recall blooper, D1, and specular tempest. Let's go ahead and listen to our dry tone. There we go. We'll add some stereo delay and a light plate reverb. So here's... Actually, let's go to our analog delay. There we go. And so there's our clean tone. Let's throw on a little bit of a plate reverb and an analog delay. And let's give the VHS mode a listen. Let's see where our settings are at. We'll go over to page 2, make sure everything's kind of where we want it to be. Now let's give it a listen. Add a little bit more wow. Set both filters kind of in the middle. Also go in, kill that dry tone, and just get a lot of warble. Okay, right off the bat, I'm really, really into the vinyl sound on this thing. Let's pull a little bit of that noise out, add a little bit of that age back in. Make sure we have some dry tone still. Let's give it a listen. Kind of exaggerate that sound a little more. Add a little bit of noise. Dial that depth back. Let's speed up the RPMs a little bit more. Bring some of that depth back in. So cool. It's also really, this is a great option for a lot of movement if you're going to go with a much bigger, much slower kind of like washy thing. So really cool texture piece, which I really love. Let's go back to a more normal sounding set of delays and reverbs. Here we go. If you've been following me at all, you know that this is my standout mode on the Lo-Fi card where we are right now. Let's turn the sensitivity down, take that detune way down, keep that sub pretty high, and keep our resonance a little bit low. Go over here, kill our dry, tons of wet. You hear that clock noise. Keep it just high enough and darken up our tone a little bit. And now we have my favorite synth in a pedal sound of all time. Gosh, that is so good. For context, bringing some of that dry back in. It's cool, but I'm a big fan of just taking it out. Take that out. And bring the clock back up just a little bit so we can get a little more. If you really crank the sensitivity on this thing too, you can get tiny little notes to really cause it to pop out. So your swells will happen more quickly. And they will peak higher no matter how hard you're hitting. The cool thing about that though is you can do little nuances like but I tend to really like to make myself work to open that filter up so that it stays nice and dark. So like a light finger pick versus like digging in with an actual pick. Oh, it's so good. Oh, and this is a good opportunity to go back to that big, giant delay and reverb that we were just using. Push our amp a little bit harder for some more presence on that. And you can really play with that, the amount of sub-octave you have in there for something a little less bassy. Really crank that resonance if you're into that kind of like really synthy sound. It's a little much. Before we move on, let's make sure that we get one solid hit with that. Ah, it's so good. Okay, we're moving on. We can't lose all of our time playing with the crusher mode. We're now on the lo-fi delay, so let's play with that a little bit. Let's kill our main delay. Go back down to that plate. Okay, let's dial back some of that delay and reverb and play with some of the lo-fi wet sounds on this card. So here we have our delay. That's very lo-fi. Let's open some of that back up. And let's speed it up a little bit. that mix and maybe give the clock a little more to do. Really fuzz that delay up a little bit. What I really like is when you max out the feedback on any of the delay modes, it doesn't let anything new in. Oh, it does. I'm wrong. Let's move on. Here we go. This is the LoFi Reverb, which I'm actually a really big fan of. You really kind of dial it in. Let's kill our specular tempest. This kind of reverb actually serves really well as like a full wet. Turn the clock way down, brighten it up a little bit, keep that modulation a little bit low. Very cool droney texture, which I really love. It's like broken radios in space. And next, I don't know how to play with ring mods. Moving on. Here we have our Bit Crush Reverb. Moving on. Okay, we now move on to the actual technical synth engine on the LoFi card. There's a couple differences between the two. This is more of a what you play transformed into synth, whereas the other one triggers these sub octaves and this really kind of angry filtering. This one is really cool, but it kind of does an opposite thing where, let's make sure our dry and our wet are both up. Ooh, that clock is messing around. So you can hear it's doing something right now, and it's because at some point I accidentally inputted something into my guitar. And what it will do now is when I play, it will take it away, sample what I'm playing, and then swell it back in when I stop playing, when I stop giving it new information. So you can hear that really quick. And it comes back in. And you have your sensitivity control. So I can play soft and it won't do it. But if I really... it won't do it. But we reopen that option. Let's crank that up so we don't have to be quite so aggressive with it. Let's turn that attack up. We'll open that filter back up so you can hear what's actually happening. Oh, let's just go to my favorite version of things here. Keep that sensitivity up. Kill our dry tone. Turn that clock back down because low clock sounds are always the best. So what's cool is if you really make that attack nice and long and you hold the note for a while, you'll hear it kind of come back in this longer, smoother format. So note. And then slowly release it. I'll leave my vocal mic unmuted during that so you can hear when I'm hitting the guitar. But you can also do much quicker percussive things with that, like... I use that a lot for some somewhat formless texture pieces during the intro song. I find it to be really pretty and gentle. Next card. We are now in the delay card. We have no other delays turned on the board. Let's listen to the digital delay. Let's make sure our settings are correct. All settings at noon. We have reverb back on now. So you got your modulation controls down here, speed and depth. And then you got, your basics, your time. And the nice thing is you can also do your time over here. and you hear that kind of digital influence on those notes. And that's because we have our clock super low. If we crank that clock back up, you'll get a much clearer, crisper, high fidelity delay. With reverb. Let's tap in a slightly slower. Let's put another chord in there and play with the filtering a little bit. Oh yeah, on this card, when you have your feedback maxed out, it prevents anything new from entering the buffer. So let's dial that back slightly. And now it's locked in place. Super high passed. Super low passed. And let's mess with that clock again. I'm not sure what you would use this for, I just think it's kind of cool. I love that low clock sound on this thing. It's just that tiny bit of crunchy that just feels so good. Okay, here we have my favorite delay mode on this thing, the reverse delay. So what's really cool about it is you've got that, you got your time, and let's put that feedback nice and high the way that we're going to, but your direction and your your C and D parameters on this thing do a lot of really cool things that you wouldn't normally associate with standard reverse delay controls. So let's lock something into that buffer really quick, and then see what you get. We'll turn both of those all the way forward in a reverse delay. So nice and normal, it's locked in place. You start blending in both directions, but the reverse is pitched up. You can take all of that original forward-facing delay out and just have this octave down thing, or just your standard unity pitch in there. So you can get it so you've got the same delay going backwards and forwards in unison, which is really cool. And then you can start bringing in an octave up or an octave down or any sort of back to that just regular forward-facing delay. Which once again can prove to be very cool if you want just that reverse on your incoming signal. Or you can introduce both aspects of it using that repeat control on C. Let's add a little more reverb to this. I told you, it's so good. That reverse delay is worth the price of admission on its own. Each card has at least one of those, I have found. The crusher on the LoFi card, the reverse on this one, and then the arpeggiated reverb, especially with the arpeggios turned off on the reverb card. Just wait, you'll dig it. Okay, we have our analog delay here, and it sounds exactly how you expect it to, and it sounds great. It's so good. I mean, Cooper's capacity for these really, really authentic sounding lo-fi instruments is really cool. There's nothing digital sounding about that to me. It's good. It's real good. Once again, we're dealing with the same thing here. We've got a tape delay that just sounds really good. It just shimmers in all the right ways. Let's see if we can't dial in like that good old-fashioned like dotted eighth. Okay, now let's bring some of that age and wow and flutter and all that. I mean, that is good. And once again, if we bring that clock real low, you can start to get some of that really, really like digital crunch into a really good tape delay. once again, we could just kind of let this roll for a while. We got to move on, but it sounds really good. Grains, once again, we talked about this earlier. Nothing can be released out of the COOPERFX laboratory without something granular, so. Let's lock in that feedback. I feel like this is going to end up being too long of a review because it's just easy to get distracted in moments like this. Bring back those notes. See, that's cool in and of itself. Oh, we broke it again. I don't really know how to talk about this one. I just think it's fun. This is another one of those distracted moments. Okay, we got to move on. Okay, we have our delays and our reverbs turned off for this portion of the viewing experience because we are now on the reverb card, and I want to pay special attention to the way that these things decay without the use of any other stuff. So let's go ahead, dial everything nice and lush, clock time low because we really want to lean into some of that noise and really kind of get the most ambiance out of what we're trying to accomplish here. let's take our first delay mode, crank that decay, take that pitch way down, take that depth down, and that speed down, and see how it sounds. And turn it on. Right at the jump, the thing that blows me away about these sounds the most is just how artificial they sound in all the right ways. It's like those old lexicon reverbs, those old rack reverbs from the 80s that sound nothing like what a real reverb in the world sounds like, but they just sound so cool. This is a good reverb. This was the main part on the intro song, the kind of main guitar part that goes through the center of the piece. I find that there are some really cool lo-fi sounds when you finger pick with this one. Shimmer. It's pretty. It is pretty. Once again, we're back at that envelope hold kind of thing. Always love them. I find that a lot of these reverbs that feel less like a reverb and more like a washed out version of an effect benefit heavily from stacking with a more traditional reverb. So we're gonna put a Spatium reverb on the Specular Tempest after this, just to kind of round the edges and showcase how much you can do with this as a quote-unquote reverb sound when you've got it bolstered by something else as well. You can just hear those textures kind of peeking through, which is really cool. Which can also be really cool when you turn down your dry a little bit so that it kind of fades into the background. Okay, we gotta move on. So it's like a multi-reverb. I'm honest to God, I'm not sure what this one does. I just know that I really like it. This drop control is really cool. And that tape control allows you to kind of randomize it in a really cool way. Trying to reverb on after it again. Okay, we're skipping ahead to one of my favorite reverb sounds in this thing, which is this arpeggiated reverb. And we're turning off other reverbs for the purposes of this. You've got the speed of your arpeggio, your decay, the interval it's hitting, and the mix at which the pitch comes in. So let's give it a listen. So you may have heard a little bit of that on the intro piece of this video. Can do some really cool octave up and octave down stuff. But one of my favorite things about this is not just how cool and rhythmic these pitch shifting moments can become, but if you totally zero that out and you put that interval back at noon, this is one of my favorite really artificial sounding delay modes I've ever come across, or reverb modes that I've ever come across. you can really hear how accentuated it is. Like if we crank that clock back up. So we've had a lot of technical difficulties over the course of this. So if there's any abrupt cuts like there just was, I apologize. But what I was building to, before I was so rudely interrupted by the Iridium deciding it wanted to just screw around and not pay attention to what I'm trying to do. You can see if we turn that clock back up, one of the things that I find so cool about this setting too is it benefits heavily from that clock setting. Like you can hear right now when we've got that clock turned all the way back up and you're getting a little more fidelity out of your reverb. Let's take that pitch mix back up. It's really cool and it sounds great. And then you zero out that freaking clock, you get that nice and low. And it's like this tempest of computers from the 80s. It's just old and grainy and cool. Next card. Okay, we are now on the pitch card. And for this card, we have our D1 and our specular tempest turned back on. We're going to keep that clock nice and low still because it's just more fun that way. We'll roll back that tone a little bit because I find that a little bit of high end dampening on pitch stuff is always the way to do it. Oh, that's a little dramatic. Pitch 1, pitch 2. Let's just go straight to the drama. Okay, so you hit soft, it goes to pitch 1. You hit hard, it goes to pitch 2. Ooh, okay. So, by the way, I'm learning this card as we're walking through it. So, let's quick presses. Get out of that. There we go. Let's get that sensitivity right at noon. The port nice and fast, and let's kill most of our dry tone. Okay, so if you play the same note at different velocities on this one, it'll jump to one of the two settings. So let's get back to page 1. Let's keep that first pitch. And let's make that second pitch right at noon. Actually, I like them both like that, and a little bit of drag. Okay, like I said, I'm trying to speed through for the ones I really like, and I also did say that every card's got at least one real standout sound on it, and I think that we may have just found our standout sound on the pitch card. Dial back that dry a little bit. That's a good one. It's like laser guns. Okay, this one's actually pretty cool. We'll kill the delay to make sure that we're hearing this correctly. Ooh, that gets really cool going the octave down.